Welcome to Yarns from Down Under.
The Department of Malicious Compliance.
The Diploma of Common Sense.
It was the late 80s and my old man, Kevin, was clocking on at a massive manufacturing plant out in the industrial estate, somewhere dusty, probably near St Mary's or out towards Dandenong, where the air was thick with the smell of hot oil and ambition. He wasn't some suit or a big shot manager, just a techie, a fitter and turner by trade really, but the bloke who actually knew the guts of the operation. He was one of the salt-of-the-earth blokes on the shop floor, the crew that kept the whole shebang ticking over. See, the place was ancient, held together with good intentions, 20 years of on-the-job nous, and a bit of Aussie ingenuity. The machines were relics, long past their used-by date, but they ran sweet because the crew had worked out all the little tricks and bypasses, the bush mechanic fixes that weren't in any official book. It was a well-oiled machine, run on experience, not paperwork. Then, one Tuesday, a new supervisor rolled in, Bruce. Fresh out of uni, straight-A student, smelling faintly of a new suit and the arrogance of inexperience. He was all shiny clipboard and zero dirt under his fingernails. He strutted onto the floor and announced, loud enough for all the lads to hear, that the old ways were inefficient, a dog's breakfast to non-compliance. From now on, they'd be running everything by the book, the official, dusty, 16-year-old operational manual. My dad, Kevin, a man whose patience was as thick as his calloused hands, tried to give him the tip. "Listen, mate," he said, leaning on the main console, "that manual's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine now. We've had to make half a dozen modifications just to keep the old girl running. If you follow that to the letter, you'll be up a gum tree without a paddle before smoko." Bruce, the white-collar wonder, just puffed out his chest. "I appreciate your input, Kevin, but we're moving into a realm of documented, auditable procedure. It's what the manual dictates." Kevin just gave him the slow Aussie shrug, the one that means you're about to learn a lesson you won't forget. He just nodded and said, "Fair enough, boss. We'll run it exactly your way. Don't say I didn't warn you." The next morning, they kicked off the shift following Bruce's strict, manual-based procedure. It was like watching a train wreck in slow motion. Within 20 minutes, there was a hell of a noise, a deep metallic groan that sounded like a wounded bull. The production line jammed solid, the motor started overheating like a kettle on high, and then, with a pathetic little sigh, the whole lot conked out. The entire morning shift was stalled. Every minute was costing the plant a small fortune. Bruce panicked. He was running around like a chook with its head cut off, ringing engineers, maintenance, and probably his mother. When Dad finally sauntered over, having enjoyed an extended cup of tea and a bicky in the break room while the dingo was at the door, Bruce practically spat the dummy. "Kevin, fix it, now! What are you waiting for?" Dad was as cool as a cucumber. He reached into his toolbox, not for a spanner, but for the same dusty, dog-eared manual. He held it up. "Just confirming, mate," Kevin asked, his voice calm and even. "You sure you want me to follow this?" Bruce just glared, his face the colour of a ripe tomato, too embarrassed and stressed to argue. So Dad did exactly as he was told. He started at step 1 and followed every single non-modified, outdated step, narrating them to a frustrated Bruce. Lubricate part 4B. Check. Adjust tension on the MK1 pulley. Of course, none of it worked. The machine remained stubbornly dead. And Kevin just stood there, the manual resting casually in his hand, waiting for the penny to drop. It wasn't long before Mr. Henderson, the plant manager, a big, no-nonsense bloke who started on the floor 30 years ago, came tearing in. He took one look at the mess, the still smoke and odour, and the bewildered Bruce standing next to the unmoving Kevin holding the manual. He didn't even need to ask. He just shook his head at Bruce. "Listen here, son," he rumbled, his voice low and firm. "Next time, how about you have a yarn and listen to the blokes who've been keeping this place afloat for 20 bloody years. They're not just technicians, mate. They're the brains of the operation." Bruce was absolutely mortified. And that was it. Kevin fixed the machine in 10 minutes flat, using his old tricks, the ones he'd learnt back when he was a young bloke. After that little stash, nobody, and I mean nobody, ever questioned my dad's methods again. The air-conditioned white-collar supervisor started to wisen up. He stopped ordering and started asking. The change in his tone was like chalk and cheese. Dad still gets a chuckle out of it now. He's always said, sometimes the best way to teach a young smartass is to let him learn the hard way. He got a new diploma that day, the one in common sense.
Thanks for watching another clip by Yarns from Down Under. If you enjoyed this clip, please hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button and the bell. Another story from Yarns from Down Under will drop real soon. Cheers.